Okay, so I think it's pretty safe to say that this is my favorite episode of the season so far. You know what? Just gonna start the video off that way. So welcome back to my channel if you've been watching these before, and if you're new to it, welcome. So here we go. Let's talk about the strain a little bit in this last episode. Not quite sure what the name was on this one. I didn't really do my homework beforehand. I just kind of ran with it. It just had that sense of, I mean, it felt like a movie, and it was so intense, and you kind of got to see so many things just collide. You know, it's just a really cool thing, because, I mean, we start out, they're looking for medical supplies, and they're basically figuring out that UV lights will hurt them, and they had their confrontation with Eichhorst, and he ran off and did his thing, and Setrakian basically says that the Master, you know, he's going to make his move next, and that, you just wonder what that means, and quickly you find out. Well, they go looking for medical supplies, and then out of nowhere, boom, Fett shows up, and you all know I love Fett. Fett's one of my favorite characters. Fett and Setrakian are probably my two favorite strain characters. And they're basically negotiating over the lights. And I like that you kind of are bringing Fett in a little sooner than I remember in the books. And because Fett was such a good character, and I love that they were talking about vigilantes in the show, that, you know, it's true, rioters are going to happen, vigilantes and stuff, and when they ask who Fett is, he doesn't say his name, he just says, I'm the exterminator. And I like that, because it kind of shows that Fett has sort of taken on this responsibility of being a vigilante, in this sort of apocalyptic world. So then, after they get their lights, Setrakian notices over at the convenience store that he sees the Strigoi going down the street, and Setrakian immediately is suspicious of this, and he just starts going to town, and it is awesome. And you really get to see Setrakian kick ass in this episode, and I love that, because he's just running around with the sword, and he's just like whoosh, cutting their heads off, blood splattering against the gas station windows. Oh, and it looks so cool. The hacker lady is inside the convenience store along with F, and then Fett runs over there, but you see a bunch of the Strigoi coming up, and that's what causes Fett to go over there. And it's literally like, guys, The Strain is probably my favorite book series of all time, and you have no idea how cool it is to see two of your favorite characters from books come to life on screen, fighting together in this badass battle scene, where basically Setrakian's saying his stuff in his Setrakian weird language that I don't understand. Then out of nowhere, as he's just like cutting vampires up, just out of nowhere, Fett comes out and just boom! He's got a piece of rebar, and he's just beating the shit out of everything. And they're just going out there and just cleaning house. And F decides to go out there, and they all battle for a bit, and they retreat back into the convenience store. And I just love this, because ultimately it's just this sort of siege, and the vampires are holding them up. I loved it, because I don't know how many of you have seen this movie, but this episode reminded me a lot of the movie Splinter. You will know what I'm talking about once you've seen this and you've watched this video. You think about it. You've seen it. And all of you, it's really like similar to the movie Splinter. And that movie's awesome, and if you haven't seen it, go watch it. To me, this episode felt like a contained movie, and that's what I loved about it. It felt like a contained movie, because while they're inside the gas station, they're all bonding. You're learning about Fett, and you see Fett and Setrakian really start to bond, and he's basically like, you know, I'm a pest control person. Who better to hunt vampires than a pest control person? And Setrakian's going back and forth with him. He's like, I want to know their weaknesses. He's the one who's really embraced this whole vampires are taking over thing. And I liked seeing all these bonds. And the thing I got to bring up, Jim Kent, oh my God, that scene was brutal. Where he gets a worm in him because they shoot the stinger and it just barely nicks him, but it's enough. And you see the one. So they're like, oh, we're going to get it out. And they just cut it out. Yeah, you guys remember, because I can almost metaphorically see you guys through your screen just going, oh, yeah, yeah. And they pull the worm out. And I don't know, I love that because you really got to see how much of a fight these things are. But does it do any good? Nope. The strain doesn't stop from just a box cutter. You just see it all over his back. And to me, I guess you guys will get to see. This is why I love Fett. Fett they're talking about that they need to execute him, and Setrakian really shines in this episode. You see him talking, he's like, they need to be destroyed. And the way he's talking, you sell it. He's this weathered soldier. And they're arguing back and forth. He's like, no, he's my friend. And Jim Kent is saying, I want to die because I don't want to become one of those. And I love that, because then Fett just comes out of nowhere, grabs F's pistol, and just BAM! And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, he did it! Guys, this episode, seriously, I was on the edge of my seat my entire time, and when that happened, I was just in shock and awe. I was just like, oh my God, because I don't remember that ever happening in the book, and I didn't care. They're changing a lot of stuff now, and that's one thing I like. This show is keeping me guessing, because I know relatively where the trajectory is going, but they're changing enough stuff that it's becoming its own thing, and I love that, because I'm recognizing the familiar plot points that they have to hit, and the rest of it is free to guess in between. I don't know what's going to happen in the next episode. I really don't. I have a feeling that now, instead of my idea initially that we're going to have these solo stories with Fett and F, they really are now just a team earlier than when they were in the books. And I think that's awesome, because that means we get more badass Fett beating shit with rebar. How is that not awesome? And one thing I gotta give major praise on this show is that they know how to pace their show, unlike certain television shows that deal with post-apocalyptic crap. This episode of The Strain was badass. It was everything I wanted to see. It was a self-contained movie in itself, and you really got to know the characters more, and everybody really took up the role of action star. The finale of it is just crazy amounts of intense, and it's just all good. I could not find a weak element in this episode, and I love that. This is honestly the best episode I've seen so far, and I'm so happy it's so cool and so good. And I hope that everyone who's on the fence about the show watches that episode, because that is what the show, hopefully, is going to consistently be for the rest of the season and other seasons. So what did you guys think of this episode? Comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you are new to my channel, I do the Strain reviews and discussions every week, and I do Doctor Who and movie reviews, so just keep on coming back to this channel and you're going to keep seeing videos regularly. So, till next time, love you guys.